Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Montgomery County Council session. Today is July 14th, and we have two exciting proclamations. One is proclamation recognizing Parks and Recreation Month by the County Council's Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee. If you are here for that proclamation, please come forward.
Of course you are. Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. I'd like to meet with you to introduce us. Yes.
Good morning. We are excited to be here for a celebration of Park and Recreation Month with just a few of our closest friends here and our closest friend Reptile here repping. I'll just say I was thinking back to my time in Montgomery Parks and Recreation as a young person who benefited from so many of the programs and so many of the activities and feel so fortunate thinking back to some of my coaches. And I was sent a very interesting picture this morning, and it was a plaque that was located and identified in the Obama Presidential Library for Coach Obama from Montgomery Recreation for his work coaching his daughter's teams through Montgomery Recreation. And it shows the amount of volunteerism that takes place, not just the hardworking staff that we have in our Parks Department and our Recreation departments, but also all the community members, the parents, the mentors, the folks like, for me, Larry Klopek at the community center, who coached my teams growing up and who was a big part of my childhood as well. So it's an amazing legacy that our Parks and Recreation Department does. It's such an important part of our quality of life. We're so lucky to have such an amazing team here of a combination of volunteers and of staff members as well. We have a lot of folks here, including Mitty Figueredo from the Department of Parks. We have Katie Richter from Montgomery Parks Foundation, and we have a lot of representatives from Montgomery Parks Foundation as well. And we have Maryland Off-Road, or Mid-Atlantic, Off-Road Enthusiasts with Casey Anderson and several others. And it's just an honor to be chair of this committee, Planning, Housing, and Parks, and to be here with the council president as well as our committee colleagues as well. So let me acknowledge our former council member, who is, I can't see. Oh, I was gonna say, you're directly behind me. Okay. I was like, okay. Who is wearing multiple hats here, including one hat that he's worn twice as the chair of the Recreation Department. And council member Albernaz, Director Albernaz, used to join me in presenting this and recognizing this important event. And so really honored to have him here with us today. So let me turn it over to the council president to share a few words, then we can turn it over to our guests and then read the proclamation.
Very quickly. Good morning, everyone. This is one of the most exciting proclamations that we have in this county council, just because I love parking planning so much alongside the rec department. The only thing that I want to share is just a highlight that I was talking to Selena on my way here, and I was telling her about my daughter who has this passion about flag football, and she has her first outside the county competition this weekend. This passion came thanks to the partnership of the rec department with NCPS and Parks. She started working in the flag football league that the rec department put together like 3 years ago. She was the first class. And it was because of them that she loved the passion of this, that she, discovered this passion for the game. And now we have a travel team in Montgomery County taking kids, especially girls, outside the county to compete. And that is remarkable. I think we're one of the first counties in the nation that is taking lead on flag football for girls. And that it speaks about your hard work and your vision for sports and the love that you have for the county and how important it is, the connection between the rec department, parks, and MCPS. We had to say it. With that, it's a great honor. I see my colleague Will Jawando, who's here, the other member of the PHP committee. So I'm going to turn into him before we continue.
Good morning, everybody. Happy Parks and Rec Month. It's very apropos. I was coming from dropping kids off at camp summer program, so it's thank you for everything that you all are doing with seniors, young people across the county every day. I often say this. I'd like to remind people: top two things people love about Montgomery County in surveys are schools and parks. And even past that, a lot of times the only way people will interact with county government sometimes is through our parks and recreation. They're signing up for a class, helping seniors with isolation, our young people at after-school programs or on the weekends. So I want to thank all the staff who are represented by the group behind us, the leadership, the board, the planning commission, the trustees, but also just the people who make our parks and recreation departments move, keep our fields and everything together. It's really, really a crown jewel of Montgomery County, and I'm really proud to have worked with my colleagues on this council, on the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, on the previous council, on the Planning, Housing, and Economic Development Committee, to make sure that we've ensured that the Parks and Rec have what they need to do what they do for our students and for our seniors and for everybody in between. So happy Parks and Recs Month.
So I noted the Parks Foundation. I neglected to note Wendy Calhoun and some representatives from the advisory board for Parks and Recreation. So I really appreciate all of the folks who are part of this effort, and I want to turn it over to our two directors, starting with Councilmember Albernas.
All right, well, good morning, good people. So you often hear about full circle moments. This is a full circle moment for me personally, to say the least. But I am so thrilled to be back here today in this capacity as the director of such a wonderful department and agency. As Councilmember Jawando just mentioned, just as we speak right now, thousands of kids across this county are participating in camps and programs and services where they are learning a new skill, meeting a new friend, making lifelong memories, and engaging with caring adults, and most importantly, just having fun. That is a role that we in the Recreation Department take very seriously, and we are very proud to be the stewards and shepherds of our most precious commodity, which is our children and youth. And as was also mentioned, the other largest population that we serve within the Montgomery County Department of Recreation is our aging population, which is the fastest growing demographic in the county. And so, and it's appropriate that we're doing this on the same day that we're recognizing Peace Day, because at the core of what we do in the Recreation Department is provide a time and space for peace, for people to be seen and welcomed and heard and supported and loved. And so on behalf of the more than almost 200 full-time career staff members and more than 2,500 part-time staff members that work for our department and the tens of thousands of people that we serve every year, I want to thank the County Council for continuing to provide this proclamation. This means a lot to us because it uplifts this work and helps make sure that it's recognized, not just this month, but every day. Thank you all so, so much. And we're, of course, joined by T-Rex today. We're breaking some ground, so we're excited to have him as well. Thank you.
There has been a request for the owl. There's always next year. There's always next year. thank you to our recreation department for all the work that you do. This is kind of like the Super Bowl for the Department of Recreation. So the fact that you can come and join us with everything going on with camps and programming and activities is just amazing. And I'll note my walk every morning to childcare, I walk through a park, a local park, my local park. It's part of the great ritual that I now have the pleasure of having. And yesterday I was walking through, and the hardworking parks team were mowing the lawn and taking care of the grounds to make sure that the park was beautiful. And so we started the day with the hardworking staff who waved and smiled and were doing their work with such professionalism. And at the end of the day, we picked up our daughter and we sat and enjoyed our time, brought our picnic blanket, and sat and played with toys in the park. And it really does speak to the full life cycle of what our parks mean, the 37,000 acres of land and the stewardship that is provided by the whole team. And to represent those amazing staff members is their amazing director, Mitty Figueredo.
This was set up for taller people than me. So we have mascots too. I just want to point that out. And now we're on notice, not here, next time. I am very grateful to accept this recognition on behalf of the Parks Department. I want to thank the members of the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, and of course, all of the council for its support. I accept this recognition on behalf of all of the hardworking Parks Department employees who are out there right now, taking care of kids at camp and cutting the grass, as Councilmember Friedson said, and doing all the work that the Parks Department requires every day. And I want to thank our park users who are our biggest supporters, and of course the members of the Parks Foundation who are here. Those folks also work so hard to get us all of the resources that we need through advocacy and fundraising, and we're really grateful to them as well. And we hope everybody spends as much time as possible this month in a park, but really all year round. So thank you.
All right, now we're going to read the proclamation. Whereas Montgomery Parks and Montgomery County Recreation play an essential role in enhancing the quality of life for all residents by providing safe, inclusive, and engaging programs and public spaces that promote health, strengthen our communities, and protect the natural and cultural assets of Montgomery County. And
whereas Montgomery Parks award-winning system spans more than 37,000 acres and includes hundreds of parks, miles of trails, gardens, historic sites, playgrounds, athletic fields, and natural areas, while offering environmental education, adaptive recreation, volunteer opportunities, and outdoor experiences that connect residents of all ages and abilities with nature and one another. And
whereas Montgomery Parks brings residents together through programs and events for people of all ages, backgrounds, and abilities, including adult summer camp, summer serenades, and Parks Playhouse, and commemorates and highlights the county's diverse cultural heritage through its Black Baseball and Softball Community Heritage Project, and stewards its natural environment with the help of the Weed Warrior and Park Cleanup volunteers. And
whereas Montgomery County Recreation delivers year-round programs and services, including summer camps, after-school programs, aquatics, fitness classes, adaptive recreation, and senior programming that foster connection, personal growth, and well-being for residents of every age, culture, and ability. And
whereas initiatives such as free RecFit memberships and Rec Assist help remove financial and other barriers to participation by expanding access to fitness facilities, recreation programs, camps, and community spaces, while the county's network of recreation centers, senior centers, and aquatic centers serve as a trusted neighborhood hubs that promote belonging, wellness, and community engagement. And
you guys do so much, there's a lot of whereases here. Whereas the combined efforts of Montgomery Parks and Montgomery County Recreation advance county goals by promoting healthy lifestyles, environmental stewardship, sustainability, accessibility, historical preservation, and equitable access to high-quality parks, programs, and public spaces.
We couldn't possibly encapsulate everything that you do, but I'm going to bring it home. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee and the entire County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognize July 2026 as National Park and Recreation Month. And be it further resolved that the Montgomery County Council encourages all residents to recognize and support the invaluable contributions of Montgomery Parks and Montgomery County Recreation by participating in the programs, activities, and outdoor spaces that truly strengthen our community and enhance our quality of life. Presented on this 14th day of July in the year 2026 by the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee, myself, Council President Fanny Gonzalez, Councilmember Jawando, and the entire Montgomery County Council. Happy National Park and Recreation Month.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much to our Parks and Rec department and to all the beautiful that makes sure that Montgomery County continues to be an amazing place to live. We have a second proclamation today, and it's a proclamation recognizing Maddie Stepanek Peace Day. By council members Don Lukey and council member Sidney Katz. If you're here for this proclamation, please come forward.
Yes, your chair is going.
Hello, Mama Peace. How are you?
I don't need to be in the middle.
Come on all around. Come on all around. Mm-hmm. Hello.
So they can see you. Emily, tall girls. Yeah, here, tall girls. Yeah. Yes.
All right. I think we are properly assembled at this point to kick off our wait, we're missing. Oh, you're taking pictures. Okay. To kick off our Peace Day recognition. And Jenny's right behind. I'm going to move over. You're not allowed to hide Mama Peace when we're talking about Peace Day. So we are here gathered today to honor Peace Day. We do this every year in honor of Maddie J.T. Stepanek and the Peace Foundation, the Maddie Stepanek Peace Foundation, the legacy that Jenny, Mama Peace, has been carrying on. supporting peace, purposeful play, and I'm gonna use the word grounding, right? We need to be grounded and centered. We cannot solve problems. We cannot have positive community if the world is escalated, if the world is agitated. And it's not to say that we don't all experience those emotions or those feelings. It's a question of what we do with them and how we channel them and how we bring ourselves back together so that we, and I say we, the community, can solve problems. Everyone up here behind me is a peace ambassador. Everyone up here carries Maddie's legacy forward in how they serve, how they engage in the community, and what they do. And I love that at different events that Mama Peace hosts, there are little slips of paper with quotes from Maddie on them, and I have collected many over time, and I leave them places. I leave them in drawers or random spots so that on, the odd occasional day I open a drawer or whatever and it's just kind of sitting there, because sometimes you need that little reminder and a new thing to focus on for that day that's ahead of you. One of the poems that Maddie wrote, and I printed this up to read today because we will be coming upon the 25th anniversary of September 11th in about 6 weeks or so. And the poem that Maddie wrote in response to that event and the words therein are even more powerful today, based on the day in, day out state of affairs. And I wanted to share that as something for us to all think about and reflect upon as we honor Peace Day. The poem is called For Our World. We need to stop, just stop. Stop for a moment before anybody says or does anything that may hurt anyone else. We need to be silent, just silent. Silent for a moment before we forever lose the blessings of songs that grow in our hearts. We need to notice, just notice. Notice for a moment before the future slips away into ashes and dust of humility. Stop, be silent, and notice. In so many ways, we are the same. Our differences are unique treasures. We are a mosaic of gifts to nurture, to offer, to accept. We need to be, just be. Be for a moment, kind and gentle, innocent and trusting, like children and lambs, never judging or vengeful, like the judging and vengeful. Now, let us pray, differently, yet together, before there is no earth, no life, no chance for peace. So I ask everyone to reflect upon that and think about what each and every one of us can do to help focus on peace and purpose moving forward, because we celebrate this one day a year, but we need to carry it with us every day of the year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Katz.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely beautiful, by the way. And Mama Peace, it's always fun to be with you and everyone else who's with you today. The proclamation that we're going to do is certainly an honor and to remember Maddie Stepanek, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting many years ago, obviously. But it's also here to remind us of the admiration that we think about Maddie and his mother, Jenny, who was often referred to as Mama Peace, who deserves much appreciation for keeping the memory of Maddie alive. I can tell you she does keep the memory of Maddie alive, but all of us who have ever met him or have heard of what he had to say, we're keeping it with us as well. Jenny started the Maddie J.T. Stepanek Peace Foundation, which is a volunteer-based nonprofit organization established in 2005. 2 years ago, I guess, we got to meet Jimmy Carter's niece, who was here from that foundation. And Maddie would have turned 36, which is making me feel a little older here, but turned 36 this year. And at the Toast to Peace celebration that we had in honor, that Jenny had in honor of the birthday, which took place this past Saturday, the free event was hosted by the foundation, and it celebrates the life and legacy of Maddie's work, as Dawn has mentioned, as a poet and a peace activist, while raising funds to support the foundation's mission. Oprah came to when they dedicated the Maddie Stepanek Park in King Farm. Oprah came to it. While born with a rare medical and incurable condition that eventually took his young life, Maddie had an incredible impact on our community and our world. And during his almost 14 years, Maddie wrote 7 New York Times best-selling heart song poetry and peace essays, which provided the message that peace is possible. Seems like it's very tough, but peace is possible. Maddie believed that each person has a unique purpose within, which was meant to be shared in harmony with others. And he appeared on numerous TV talk shows, one of which was Oprah's, and media outlets to encourage others to reflect on the hope, peace, and purpose. Yeah, I also, the other day on Saturday, I mentioned this as well. I decided I knew you think of Mama Peace. I think of Mama Peace all the time. But I thought I wanted to know of what others had said about peace. And I Googled it, and another mama, Mother Teresa, said that peace begins with a smile. And Mama Peace and Maddie have absolutely proven that. Whenever you see her, you smile. And we all have to remember that not only do we smile, but we love her very much. Congratulations.
Now I'm going to turn it over to Mama Peace.
Thank you. One of our board members who's in from Chicago is out here taking pictures. Welcome, Chris Myers. And I'm here with a few of my dearest friends from Main Street Connect, from Up County Community Resources at UCR, some of our Peace Day volunteers, just friends and neighbors. Mark my words, though. Next year, we will show up with a mascot. Okay. All right. Check. All right. So each year, Montgomery County recognizes, the Montgomery County recognizes the birthday of Maddie J.T. Stepanek, the late poet, peacemaker, philosopher who played my son. They recognize his birthday as a day of peace. Then, along with the city of Rockville and the state of Maryland, they join in community in this big gathering that's hosted by Maddie's Peace Foundation to celebrate those proclamations. This year was another amazing event. It was co-hosted by World of Beer. We had entertainment by folks like Ocho de Bastos and the Blarney Bench. We had a cornhole tournament sponsored by Lafayette Federal Credit Union. We have peace-themed craft activities, lots of people that you see here. Best of all, it did not rain this year on our party in the street, okay? So on this past Saturday, we had fun. And in moments like last Saturday, it is easy for us to remember that peace is possible. We raised glasses. We raised grateful hands. We connected with neighbors. We toasted to peace. We had joy. We shared hope. We were at a party with a purpose. But really, this proclamation, that celebration, and the Maddie Stepanek Peace Foundation, really about every other day of the year. Maddie's words and wisdom, his way of living and being, remind us that peace is not just about somebody ending a war. Peace is about exploring and understanding and embracing peace as personal and community choices, choices in attitudes and habits, choices and ways of being that cultivate desirable, achievable, sustainable, even replicable change. Change that amplifies concern and compassion for our neighbor and that makes kindness, rather than bullying, an admirable and powerful truth. We at Maddie's Peace Foundation are grateful for the proclamation, for the chance to host a peace party attended by hundreds, because pausing to celebrate and connect with our neighbors motivates us, reminds us that how wonderful life can be in those moments. But between parties, we work throughout the year to help children and adults in schools, in businesses, places of work and worship. We work with people to help them better understand exactly how peace is possible, despite what you see on the news, the chaotic and tragic realities in our world. We are here year-round to help everybody, individuals and communities, as you grow an understanding of the important matters of peace, purpose, and play, tending to basic needs, understanding choices that help us each and all be able to say, I am okay, even amid the challenges. You can learn more at MaddiesPeaceFoundation.org. You can connect with us, you can invite us to your community, and you can join us in everybody up here continuing to make peace the news. So thank you, and Mama Peace out.
Thank you. And now we will read our proclamation. Do you want to start?
Whereas Maddie J.T. Stepanek was a humanitarian, peace activist, and motivational speaker who left a legacy of peace, purpose, and play, and
whereas Maddie's writings on the importance of peace, patience, love, and acceptance earned global recognition, all while he was living with a rare and fatal health condition called dysautonomic mitochondrial myopathy, and
whereas Maddie wrote in his poetry, Hope Through Heart Songs, that a heart song is something deep inside each of us. It is like a purpose. It may be to live as a mommy or a daddy or a firefighter or a delivery person or a child with a disability who teaches others about patience and love and acceptance. Heart songs are usually easy to hear when you were young, but we sometimes get too busy or angry to listen to them as we get older. And
whereas Maddie Stepanek Peace Day has been recognized at all levels of government, including Montgomery County, the state of Maryland, and the city of Rockville. In 2014, the United States Senate passed a resolution to honor Maddie's many contributions on his birthday. And
whereas Montgomery County is proud to be home of Maddie's life and legacy and the Maddie Stepanek Peace Foundation, and we recommit ourselves to being a community where Maddie's message of peace, inclusion, and empathy are nurtured and celebrated.
now therefore be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland hereby recognizes July 14th as Maddie Stepanek Peace Day to honor Maddie J.T. Stepanek's life and legacy of peace, which continues to inspire our world with hope and goodwill. Presented on this 14th day of July in the year 2026 on behalf of myself, Councilmember Katz, Council President Natalie Fanny Gonzalez, and the entire Montgomery County Council.
Thank you to everyone who came to the County Council today. It's a beautiful day, pretty hot. Please hydrate. That's what I told my children before I came. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to the general business. Madam Clerk, would you please share today's announcements?
Good morning. Today's agenda has been revised to reflect the addition of a proclamation recognizing the service of Delegate Pamela E. Queen. And so therefore the council will return from recess at 1:05 p.m. to deliver this, as well as the proclamation recognizing the National Council of Negro Women. Also, agenda item 8, a public hearing on sectional map amendment H161 has been canceled due to a clerical error. On September 15th, 2026 at 1:30 p.m., the council will receive testimony on sectional map amendment H163, a comprehensive rezoning application to implement the 2025 University Boulevard Corridor Plan. Sectional map amendment H163 is the same sectional map amendment previously advertised as sectional map amendment H161. Those wishing to provide testimony in person or virtually must register in advance on the council website or by calling 240-777-7803. More information can be found on the council website. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the minutes. We have circulated the minutes for June 16, 2026, council session for your review. Are there any objections to approving these minutes? Seeing none, these minutes stand approved. Now we're going to move to agenda item 1, and it's the interview of the 2 candidates for appointment to the Montgomery County Planning Board, part of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. We have Mr. James Hedrick and Mr. John Schlichting. I was close. Schlichting. There you go. If you can both please come forward. And you can see it. Mr. Hendrick, you're going to see it. There you go. You're there. And you see it over there. Thank you so much for coming today. I have a few questions for each of you. We're going to alternate who's going to answer first. We're going to start with Mr. Hendrick first, and then after I'm done, I'm going to open it up to colleagues in case anybody has further questions. And with that, we're going to start with the first question. What are your relevant skills and experience related to the work of the planning board? And Mr. Hendrick, can you please go first?
Absolutely. Thank you first for letting me come here today. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the consideration. So I spent the last 3+ years as a member of the planning board. Since the turnover of the planning board a couple of years ago, I think I've gained a lot of experience doing that. It's been a learning experience, and hopefully one that I've contributed just a little bit. I have a lot of background, a very deep background in affordable housing. I think that's one of the big things that I bring to the planning board. I have been involved in affordable housing finance for most of my career. I've worked at HUD, I've worked in public housing. I'm currently the executive director of the Rockville Public Housing Authority, working on tax credit programs. So I have some direct experience with the type of affordable housing that we're hoping to build in Montgomery County. And I think I bring a lot of that to the planning board. One other thing that I found very interesting in my 3 years is my background in anthropology has been very helpful. My undergraduate work was in anthropology, and I did a lot of work on dig sites, and we have burial sites in Montgomery County, and I've actually gotten to do a lot of work with the Parks Department, working on things like preservation of burial sites and things like that. So there's been a little bit of extra. Getting to use my undergraduate degree has been fun, so it's been a fun time. So I think I bring a lot there. I think the affordable housing is probably the deepest experience that I bring to the Planning Commission.
Thank you. Next. Can you please turn on your mic? There you go.
Good morning, Council President and members of the County Council. With all due respect to Planning Board Member James Hedrick, I am honored to have the opportunity to be considered for this position. My skills and experience have been multifaceted throughout my career. My undergraduate degree is in architecture from the University of Virginia, after which I spent 3 years working for an architecture firm in New York City. My graduate degree is a master's in business administration from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, with concentrations in real estate and urban planning. I then spent 26 years in the real estate development industry for several companies based in Washington, D.C., with most of the time at the JBG Companies, which is now JBG Smith. Most of the projects I worked on were transit-oriented, mixed-use urban developments in the Washington, D.C. area, both downtown and in the suburbs, and a few years spent developing office buildings in the Chicago suburbs and the Pacific Northwest. Meanwhile, my family and I moved to Kentlands in 1992, where I pledged my commitment to public service for the city of Gaithersburg. I was appointed to the Planning Commission in 1995 and served as its chair from 1999 to 2001. I was then elected to the Gaithersburg City Council in 2001 and served 6 years under the awesome leadership of then Mayor, now County Council Member Cindy Katz. In 2012, I switched gears from real estate development to accepting the position of Director of Planning and Code Administration with the city, a position I held for 12 years before retiring in 2024. Throughout my career, I have served on many boards, including the Downtown Washington, D.C. Business Improvement District, the Dulles Corridor Rail Association, the Washington Architectural Foundation, and the George Washington chapter of Lambda Alpha International and Honorary Land Economic Society. I am currently the immediate past president of the local chapter and international treasurer of Lambda Alpha. Again, I greatly appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Schlechthin. The second question, we're going to start with you. So it is, can you please elaborate specifically with respect to the planning board's role in the approval of development applications, the drafting of master plans, and the development of land use and zoning policies? What experience do you have?
Throughout my career, I have been involved with all three processes from several sides of the table. As a developer seeking approvals, as a planning commission and city council member with review and approval responsibilities, and as a planning director administrating the processes and overseeing the staff to get them done. For 12 years, from 1995 to 2007, I sat on two sides at the same time, though never on the same projects. A notable achievement as a developer was a 2-year review and approval process through the D.C. Office of Planning and the D.C. Zoning Commission for the rezoning and planned unit development for the International Monetary Fund's 650,000 square foot Headquarters 2 building at 1900 Pennsylvania Avenue. While on the Gaithersburg Planning Commission and City Council, I was involved in the later phases of Kentlands, the rezoning and approvals for Lakelands, Watkins Mill Town Center, Quince Orchard Park, the early stages of the redevelopment of the Crown Farm, and several of the later phases of Washingtonian Rio. As planning director, I oversaw the implementation of Crown, 2 complete city master plans, the first new zoning code since 1965, and the initial approvals for the rezoning and schematic development plans for the redevelopment of Lake Forest Mall. For the county, I anticipate utilizing these skills and assisting in the implementation of Thrive Montgomery 2050, which I enthusiastically support.
Thank you. Next, Mr. Hedrick.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I think I've mentioned my background in affordable housing, and one of the things that I do right now as a director of the Rockville Housing Enterprise is do tax credit developments and exactly the type of affordable housing developments that we need and want in Montgomery County. And so when I'm reviewing plans and we're reviewing site plans and things like that, I know what goes into those. I know what things cost. I know what it means for the developer to do one thing rather than the other. I know what it means to underground utilities rather than not, and things like that. I think that helps a lot with reviewing individual site plans. And that's a lot of the work that we do in Montgomery County when these plans come before us, is to try to encourage as much affordable development as we can and as many affordable units as we can for the site plans. I think that translates over into land use and the ZTAs as well. I know what it takes to get a development through as a nonprofit developer and as a public developer. In my day job, I think I bring a lot of that experience to reviewing individual site plans and being able to sort of negotiate between the developers and the commission for what we can expect them to do and what things cost and things like that. So I think that's important. Other times when I'm looking at master plans and things like that, I think one thing that I actually bring to the commission that I think is important is that I am a father of 3 small children. And when we were looking at site plans and sketch plans for different particular developments, it's important, I think, to realize what it's going to be to take your kids around there and to be able to think about where roads are put in and where playgrounds are put in. We just recently had a site plan that came to us where they had put a playground in, which was very good, but it was also right next to the freeway. And that's a very high polluted area. And we worked with the developer and we're trying to get that moved and get them to change the plan around so that when kids go outside and play, they're not breathing in, dust and fumes. So there's things like that that I think offer a lot of insight into specific plans, specific developments. And so, like I said, I think I understand what it takes on an individual project level to get it through, what we can expect from developers, and what we can get for the public when we're reviewing site plans and things like that. So I think I bring a lot of that experience.
Thank you. For the third question, we're going to start with Mr. Hedrick. It is, in your opinion, what are the most critical issues that the planning board faces, and how would you contribute to the discussions of those issues?
Mm-hmm. Housing production and sustainability are the two key issues that I think before the planning board right now. We need more housing production. We need more affordable housing production in the county. Costs are going up. We're not getting as much as we need. We need to see more affordable development and more deeper affordable development within particular developments. We have some good policies for moderate income development. I think we need more for deeper affordability. I work with that on a daily basis, trying to do multiple subsidies for individuals in different housing projects that we have in Rockville. So we have tax credit properties, and then even to that, we have to add separate subsidies of vouchers and things like that. So we need more deeper affordable housing production in the county. The other is sustainability, clean energy production and transit-oriented development. I think we need to encourage more of that. We've got to be we've got to start building those affordable units near transit, bus rapid transit. We have the metro, we have the MARC stations. I think it's important to encourage that. I think that's a big factor in sustainability and making sure that we meet our climate goals for the county and for the state. And then energy production. We need, I think, a lot of solar and clean energy production in Montgomery County. I think that's the best for our county. There's also wind options. There's reasons it doesn't work as well here, but I think we have opportunities for parking lots coverage, the parks department. We've had discussions there for where we can include solar and other clean energy production within the parks. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, and I think we need to really focus on that at the planning board and make sure that we're getting clean energy production and deeply affordable housing production. Thank you. Next, Mr. Shillington.
I believe that the three most critical issues facing the board are also the three of the most important issues facing the county, and those would be affordable housing, retaining employment, and being competitive in the region. Not coincidentally, all three of these issues were critical in the city of Gaithersburg, which I tackled in my various positions for over 2 decades. I mentioned in my response to the last question that I support Thrive Montgomery 2050, which I believe recognizes these issues and strives to be aspirational from a planning perspective in a meaningful way. I would like to be part of these discussions at the county level, as I have contributed to the city of Gaithersburg, as well as the various jurisdictions with which I have worked during my development career.
Thank you. The next question, we're going to start with Mr. Shillington, and is, in your opinion, what role does the planning board play in ensuring that a commitment to racial equity and social justice guides the work of the planning board in the Parks Department? How would you work to support this effort and further advance and enhance equity efforts?
As I said to you last year when I interviewed for the last vacancy on the board, given the current climate on this issue at the federal level, I am proud to live in a county that still asks this question. And I think it's an incredibly insightful question, given the fact that many aspects of zoning itself have historically been systematically racist. I mentioned that during my tenure as planning director for Gaithersburg, we comprehensively rewrote the city zoning code for the first time since 1965, which of course was during the height of the civil rights movement. Every aspect of our 2024 rewrite was scrupulously viewed through an equity lens and significantly impacted the final product. As we were in the process of the zoning rewrite, I, along with several other department heads with the city, participated in the 2023 Government Alliance on Race and Equity Regional Learning Cohort. The leader of the Gaithersburg cohort was our Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Manager, Hazel Monet, who now co-chairs the Chief Equity Officers Committee of the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. I believe this 10-month program provided intensive training for me and that has given me skills and insight on the subject that I can bring to the county.
Thank you, sir. Next, Mr. Hedrick.
Thank you. I absolutely agree with Mr. Schlichting here that there are absolutely aspects of land use and zoning that have been systematically racist over time. I used to work for HUD, and we dealt with a lot of systemic racism and the results of that when we had to deal with the UDAG program and urban renewal and things like that. There was a lot of mistrust in communities, and a lot of mistrust in communities for very, very good reasons, historic reasons. And I think that when we talk about the Planning Commission within Montgomery County, we try with our communication and we work very hard to reach out to communities that are typically underserved. That can be immigrant communities, it can be minority communities, it can be low-income communities, for trying to reach out and communicate with them when we're doing master plans, when we're doing sector plans and things like that. I think that's a key factor for racial and social justice within Montgomery County. I think it's very important that we do that. I think we have a key role in making sure that we implement and go out and make sure that we're communicating with the communities that are that live in Montgomery County. I also want to talk a little bit briefly about, I think the Parks Department in particular also has a big role in social and racial justice in the county. Recently, we've been doing our Untold Stories program with the Parks Department. I think that one has been key for highlighting stories that were not told. And I think one of the recent ones that we did in Wheaton Urban Park, which was really nice, which was Elsie and Romeo Horod, and the marker that we put there for them. Romeo Horod was somebody that ran for the Montgomery County Council in 1948 as a black man in Montgomery County, which I think is a fascinating thing to put a historical marker on and to put a real focus on the history that wasn't told before in Montgomery County. And then there's other things that we do as well that I think are less highlighted, but I think equally as important for addressing history and racial and social justice. One of the ones recently that we've done is the Drag Queen Story Time and brought that back. I'm sure if y'all remember a couple of years ago, there was a bit of an incident. It took some work, but I and mostly the park staff and several of the people worked really hard to bring that project and that program back. I took my own kids to it. It was fantastic. They really enjoyed it. And we do things like that, and we keep doing things like that because it's important and because you don't want people to run you off. All right. And so we have to make sure that we continue to do things like that. And then I think last but not least, there's some other things that we've done in the parks. One of the things we've done with preservation and acquisition in the parks is a couple of years ago, we bought a soapstone quarry that was 6,000 years old that was used by Native Americans in Montgomery County. It was something that was used before pottery was brought, was invented in the Western Hemisphere. And you would carve soapstone, and I got to see bowls and things like that were thousands and thousands of years old. It was a horse farm, and we bought it to preserve it and tell a story of people that were here before we were. And I think that's an important aspect of some of the roles that we play in racial and social justice. And again, my undergraduate in anthropology just makes me geek out over that kind of stuff. I really enjoyed it. But we have a real role both in the planning and the park side, and I think we try to focus on that, and I think we really try to do the outreach and do the work to make sure that we're telling the stories of folks that haven't been, and going back and making sure the history of our county, all of our county, and everybody that lives in it has been told.
Thank you for that. Then the last question, we're going to start with Mr. Hedrick.
Okay.
What is it?
Just lost the snake draft there.
Oh.
All right.
Do you have any limits on your ability to prepare for and fully participate in the planning board meetings? And are there any potential conflicts of interest of which we should be aware?
No, I think I've mentioned it already. I'm now the executive director of Rockville Housing Enterprises, which is the public housing authority for the city of Rockville. Rockville, as you know, similar to Gaithersburg, has their own planning department and their own planning board. I do work in development within Rockville, but there hasn't been any crossover yet, and there's no conflict of interest there. Otherwise, I used to work for the feds. Now I work for the city of Rockville Housing Enterprises. So no conflicts of interest. I touch base with our ethics lawyer on a fairly regular basis to make sure. I do have partnerships at RHE with some of the organizations that work in Montgomery County. So anytime any of that comes up or there's something specific, I make sure to check in with our lawyer, but we haven't had any issues with that yet.
Thank you for that response. Mr. Schlegenting, you're next. Can you please turn on your mic?
Thank you. I do have several other commitments, but they're sufficiently flexible that would allow me to, that shouldn't impede my participation in the board. I am also on the Gaithersburg Board of Appeals. I don't think that would be a conflict, but I would certainly check with both the county and the city attorney on that.
Excellent. Thank you so much for coming forward, and I think you are a great example of the great talent that we have in Montgomery County. It's pretty amazing just to hear from you and to see everything that you have done to make sure that Montgomery County and the Washington, D.C. region continues to be strong. So I wanted to say that first. The second thing I'll say before I turn it to colleagues, I had to say, I love to continue hearing people coming in front of us uplifting the work of Thrive 2050. And I say it because I was on the planning board and worked on the final draft that was sent to the county council. And it was so controversial. And just to see people who continuously talk about it, and then understanding the need that we do need more housing, that we need to continue working on economic development, that we need to continue being sustainable, it's crucial. And so I felt that I had to say that from the bottom of my heart. And with that, we're going to start the first round of questions with the chair of the PHP committee, Mr. Andrew Frickson.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks to both of you for just a significant amount of dedication to public service in a lot of different forms and fashions, and we're just very grateful and very lucky, echoing the comments of the council president, to have people like you who are just really talented and really committed to serving. So thank you for that. Makes our job a little bit tougher, but we're grateful to have it. We've done a lot to be creative and to take action on addressing the housing crisis in Montgomery County. It's something that both of you have spoken about. We've done special funding and regulatory reform, incentives and flexible zoning. Just wanted to get your perspective of what you think our collective efforts should be focused on next, both as a county, as policymakers, but also from the perspective of where the planning board can play the biggest role moving forward. And we can start with you, Mr. Schlesing.
Thank you for that question. I do see the issue of housing as an issue of supply, and primarily, and we need, and I think, as I mentioned, I think Thrive Montgomery 2050 does address this, in that it frees up more land and more ability to provide supply, because the more supply we have of housing in the county, the more affordable housing will be in general, and that would be my approach.
Yeah, very similar to that. I think the housing supply is a key factor in the affordability equation, as well as we've had some good ZTAs come through on optional methods to improve either office to residential conversion, which has been really helpful in a couple of projects. We've had some optional methods come through for affordability and increased MPDUs and increased affordability. I think those are very good. I think one place to focus on sort of in the future, in addition to sort of encouraging the development of more multifamily in more places, is to encourage the development of ownership for small unit ownership, either be it duplexes, townhome expansion. We have a lot of townhome construction in the county now. I think that's it's more affordable than the detached single family. I think we can focus there. We can focus on 2/2s and duplexes, condos, things like that. There's some options there, I think, to focus on not just the rental supply market, but also home ownership, which I think is key. We've got a real gap between the affordability of homes now and what we could have with home ownership and entry-level home ownership. I've said it many times at the Planning Commission. If I were trying to buy my house today, I wouldn't be able to afford it. I wouldn't be here in Montgomery County if my house costs what houses in my neighborhood cost today. And so we really need to sort of address having different types and different styles of housing in the county. I think there's some work we can do in ZTAs there. I think there's some work in zoning that we can do there. But I think that's a key factor that we should really focus on.
Great. Next, we have Councilmember Kristen Mink.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here today. One of the common complaints, of course, as I'm sure both of you are aware, that I hear from community members, especially recently, is the feeling that their feedback as community members is not being adequately taken into consideration by the planning board. So if you could just each speak to that. Are there ways in which actions that the board could take, or ways in which the board could help to improve that, better deal with community issues being raised that you personally as a board member might personally disagree with, any process improvements that you see that could help to improve the relationship between the planning board and the community, or any other thoughts on this issue would be helpful. And we're starting with Mr. Hedrick.
No, I appreciate the question. Thank you. We've worked really hard over the last 3 years that I've been at the planning board to make sure that we expand the communication and go out into the community and get, to get views from as many different sources and places as we can. For things like Friendship Heights and University Boulevard Corridor Master Plan, we were out there years before we produced even the draft of the plan, listening to members of the community and taking their comments into consideration when we were discussing individual plots and individual pieces of land. We're starting to work more with organizations that canvass and do door knocking for master plans, I think has been a real key to making sure that we get out and into the communities and hear from folks that we wouldn't normally hear from. We can't really sit back and just wait for the public hearing to come to us. We need people to go out into the community. We have the meetings. Every member of the planning board that's there right now, myself included, has been to homeowners association meetings, civic association meetings, other nonprofit meetings and organizations within the communities, talking about the master plans, talking about ZTAs, talking about everything. So we're working really hard to continue to communicate, to take into account everybody's thoughts and communications on master plans, sector plans, everything that we do, and then send something to y'all that we think is a good, a consistent approach that includes both best expertise, community views, and what we think we need for the future of the county based on the Thrive 2050 and the other plans that we have. So I think what we need, more specifically in the future is, I think, keep with the canvassing and the door knocking, making sure that we get those communications, correlate them, we get them up from the staff analysis to get an idea of what people in the community are saying, and take in all the communications, and then we, like I said, put together the plans and send it to y'all with the the best estimation we can of what the community is saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've dealt with this issue, obviously, over the 4 decades of my career, and in every facet of the different roles that I have played. And basically, it comes down to relentless communication. Most recently, we had tremendous outreach for our zoning rewrite at the city. We had tremendous rewrite for the planning of Lake Forest, or tremendous outreach for the planning of Lake Forest Mall. And what it involved was just utilizing every avenue, including social media, including listservs, including newsletters, and of course the website. But it relentless really is the key. Is to make sure that you really get the word out. You really get it as close to the community as you possibly can, whether it's through meetings, whether it's through email outreach, whatever avenue it takes. And again, relentlessly.
And if I could just give you another 30 seconds, because I just want to clarify that I think there are community members who felt that they expressed themselves, so they made contact, but then that community concerns, common community concerns, were then not reflected in the draft. And I would assume that this is probably something that you've heard before as well, both of you. And so if there's anything on that side of things that could be improved to help with that part of the relationship, I think that would be tremendous. That would go a long way with the community. Is there anything either of you would like to add?
Yeah, I think with many of the plans that we've had, we've taken into community consideration and made changes to the plans in different areas. I think we could do a better job of communicating back. We have a lot of communication at the staff level because this is the devil in the details kind of situation. I think one of the things that the commission could do is communicate back to the community. I think after drafts come before us, after the public hearing, we do a lot of communication up front during an approval, and given our work program, we have a lot often we're sort of moving on to the next thing, and that is something that we do. I think there's a little bit of opportunity there for more back communication afterwards to follow up, and sometimes we're not going to agree with every recommendation, or recommendations are not, we can't factor everything in, but I think we can communicate back a little bit better, and I think that's something we can do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree. We can't please everybody, but what I think you can do is communicate the rationale for why you can't please everybody, and make sure people understand that the decisions are being made for good reasons, even though those good reasons may not actually placate every concern.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Kate Stewart.
Great, thank you. My question is going to be about legacy businesses, but before I begin, I do want to note one other thing that the planning department is now doing in the Eastern Silver Spring plan is providing preliminary recommendations before they even do the draft plan to the board. So I thank Councilmember Mink for her questions, but I think how that process, which is a different one, actually incorporates the community feedback and what people see in the draft plan, I think is going to be very important. And I just want to say thank you to the staff for their work on those preliminary recommendations, because I think there's a lot of conversations that are happening even before the draft plan is put in place, and will be very helpful. So. Yeah. But my question coming out of that, actually, as we are doing the Eastern Silver Spring plan, and even before that, is on legacy businesses, to switch a little bit from housing to businesses. And we know in many parts of our community, we have businesses that are family-owned entrepreneurs that have evolved over decades in our neighborhoods. And they are not just storefronts, but they are part of the community and add to the local vibrancy and character of an area. Currently, we don't have a legacy business program in the county. We don't have a definition or anything to specifically support those types of businesses. We don't necessarily address them in our master plans as we do this. The downtown Silver Spring and adjacent communities one did that a little bit for Fenton Village, but we haven't picked that up moving forward. So I guess my question to you all is, as you're looking forward over the next couple of years, how can we provide more support and protection to our legacy businesses in our community? And Mr. Schleckling, I think we are to you first.
I think it's a matter of general support and making sure that the plans recognize the advantages and the importance of these legacy businesses, and retaining those kinds of uses within our overall plans. And I think that would be my approach.
Thank you for so I just really want to quickly address the preliminary recommendations for the Silver Spring plan. I think that is a good approach. We've had sort of that in our process before, where it's come for us a little bit, and we've discussed sort of where we're going and what we're expecting to see, but that hasn't been a official part of the public hearings and meetings. And I think it's been useful to get that out. I think that's what transparency means when we talk about it. We can talk about transparency, and then putting that into action, I think, is key to give everybody a sense as early as possible of what we're thinking and where we're going with all the information that we have and that the staff has collected and that we've talked to the community and things like that. So I think that's a key one. I appreciate you bringing that one up, and the staff has done a lot of good work on that. With the Legacy Businesses program, we are hampered a little bit by not having a Legacy Businesses program. I've worked in communities across the country in my career that have had legacy business programs. Some of them have been worked very well. I've worked with economic development programs at HUD for a long time. Some of them work really well in that kind of situation. Some of them don't work as well and end up hampering the development. I really do think, I live in Twin Brook, and we have a lot of great businesses in our shopping center that's along there on Veers Mill. But if you've ever gone there, it's half the storefronts are empty, and it really could use a facelift. And to be honest, the community not terribly long before I moved in stopped there being anything from there, and it hasn't improved. But there are some great businesses there. There's a place to get a fantastic burrito down at the end that I'm not going to tell you the name of because I want to make sure that it's open at lunch. No, it's really good. There's several great businesses in there, and if it were to redevelop, I think like everybody else in the county, we'd want to see an opportunity for those businesses to continue, for them to have a right of first refusal to come back, for them to have some sort of graduated, I've seen it across the country, graduated rent increases if there's a rent increase. Sometimes it means doing square footage issues with the storefronts by allowing flexibility there. More square footage means more businesses can come in. So there's things that we can do. We are hampered a little bit by not having a legacy businesses program. So there is something that we can do with master plans and including language like that, but it's hard to enforce and it's hard to coordinate without having a ZTA or legacy businesses program. So I think that's, as we talked about as Councilmember Friedson mentioned, what we can do in housing, there's opportunities to do that with extending no-cost loans, revolving loan funds, similar to what we have with HIF and HIP. Like there's options there to do it. We are hampered by not having sort of those in the toolbox right now when we do master plans, but language can be put in to those to sort of encourage it, or if something like that comes along in the future, I think we could do more with that. Yeah.
Before I continue, I feel I have to say this. The Economic Development Committee has taken the retail study work, and legacy business is part of that work. We're looking into programs that are happening already across the nation, San Francisco's being one of them. The next work session is in the fall, and we're working closely with the planning department on that. So, next, Council Member Evan Glass.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Gentlemen, thank you for your current and continued service to the residents of the county. It is very much appreciated. And building off the comments that my colleagues have made, I want to go back to housing, which is typically seen as, at least at this point in time, the primary focus, a much needed focus, and an expensive focus. Just yesterday, the Economic Development Committee had a work session in which we talked about the economic landscape and looked at economic indicators. The most startling statistic that we were told is that the average cost of a single family house now goes for $1 million, and an attached home, a condo, a co-op, a duplex, a triplex, goes for $500,000. And so there is a lot of focus, rightfully so, on deeply affordable, subsidized housing. But our middle class does not have housing that they can afford, which is why so many of our kids and grandkids are leaving Montgomery County. What is your thought about making sure that there are more homes that residents can afford? And I think, Mr. Hedrick, we're starting with you.
All right. Is it my turn? No, you're absolutely correct. One of the most startling statistics that we continually see is the cost, the average cost of a home. And then someone will say, what about the median cost of the home? And I'm like, it's not a lot better if you use median. One of the issues is that there's just not that many being sold, and most of them are very expensive, which is very much an indication of a supply problem. I think Thrive 2050 gave us a start with that in putting us on that path. I've worked in affordable and subsidized housing for all of my career. For most of it, I like to focus on that. I think it's an area that needs a lot of attention. But you're absolutely right. We're not creating enough home ownership and rental opportunities for middle and moderate income folks. We have a robust MPDU program and inclusionary zoning that works very well, but we're just about at the edge of what that can accomplish without turning into being a net negative where we push too much more in the private side of the development. So we need more supply. We need more places where we can build that supply. And I think that we've sort of talked all those things. We sort of know what the policy issues are with increasing supply, and that has to do with zoning, ease of site plans, going through the process, increasing density in certain areas. We're talking about corridor development and transit-oriented development, which I think is really key. We've invested a lot of money in our metro and our work systems. It'd be nice to have houses around them that people could go to and move around the county. So I think we really need to focus there and on creation of more houses and more, and I mentioned it a couple of questions ago, more focus on home ownership. We have a lot of, we can have some large-scale multifamily rental, but smaller scale home ownership, I think, is a key to encourage, and that includes duplexes and attached homes. They tend to be smaller. Their footprint, you tend to be able to get more on a unit of land, which makes them lower on a cost per square foot basis. I think this may be less compelling than my story about not being able to afford to move in Montgomery County right now, but we'll talk numbers. But you have to get more units on less land to make it affordable. That's a key factor. And I think that there's a lot we need to do to make sure that if someone wants to build home ownership, they can build it on smaller lots, they can build it denser on smaller and medium-sized lots in more areas of the county and produce more units that are affordable for more people. I think that's key.
Thank you.
Yes, clearly we agree that it's a supply issue, and I think it's also an issue of what kind of supply is being delivered. It seems that most of our development these days are $1 million plus homes on large lots or rental housing. And so one of the things that we try to do with the Lake Forest Mall plan, for instance, is identify units that we actually call them gap housing. We didn't call them missing middle because missing middle typically includes townhouses, and as we all know, we have $1 million townhouses that are proliferating all over the county. But gap housing is anything between a townhouse and a rental apartment. That would include condos, smaller condos, larger condos. It would include duplexes, triplexes, 2-over-2 housing, and smaller units that can address a need that is in the county that isn't being addressed today. So again, it's supply, and it's the type of supply that we need to address.
I appreciate your thoughtful responses. I'm glad that you're both in agreement, and we do have a lot of work to do. To the point that was just made, I was never fond of the term missing middle housing. It's middle class housing. We should just be frank with what it is, and we don't have enough of it. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Will Jowondo.
Thank you both for putting yourself forward. Thank you for coming forward again, and thank you for your service, Mr. Hedrick. Appreciate comments of colleagues. I just want to make 2 points and have a question for each of you. On the feedback issue, Mr. Hedrick, since you're on the planning board now, this won't be a surprise. No one's ever happy. You wouldn't be surprised to hear no one's ever happy with us. But well, except for Sydney, of course. To the point that I think Councilmember Mink and Councilmember Stewart made as well, there's a difference between communicating to somebody and actually being in conversation with them and incorporating what they've said. And there's also a difference between saying, well, I hear you and I disagree, or I hear you and I'm going to make an adjustment. And especially when you have the power, right? We delegate to the planning board the authority given to us by voters to decide land use decisions. So it's their power that is delegated to us by electing us, then to you. And I think it's just important to remember that. And even if you think you're right, and even if I think I'm right in my home with my 3 teenage daughters, I try to really hard to listen to what they're saying and change my view and actions as a result of that. And so what I would like to ask is, what ways structurally, specifically, have you, or can the planning board do better to have that type of dialogue and incorporate that type of feedback? And specifically, how have you done that? How have you changed a position or a viewpoint based on community feedback? Or do you think that that's not your role? You can say that too. You think, I have my ideas and I think we should do what we're here to do. So that's the question to you.
No, I appreciate the question. Thank you. I think that, before the new set of commissioners came onto the planning board, I think we did a lot of talking to or with or listening of people, and I think the conversation was less. I think this planning board really has tried to push out and find the conversation in the community and go with structurally things like canvassing for folks that don't normally come to our public hearings and going out and asking them what they want. And we've done placemaking events and things like Damascus, where we've gone out into the community and put the planning commission out there and had opportunities for people to come up and give their comments and thoughts on what we were doing unprompted, without sort of a structure of a survey or things like that. So I think we've really been experimenting. We've done it at Wheaton as well, and down in Friendship Heights. We've really been experimenting with ways to sort of get a conversation going and make sure that our outreach goes to folks that haven't traditionally been represented at public hearings or something like that. So I think that's something that we've really done, and we're really continuing to try to do. So I think that there's a lot of structural things that we can do to make sure that we go out and talk to people, and they can come and talk to us in the course of their daily lives while they're going through their communities. I think that helps a lot, whether they're thinking about what they're doing. And like I said, we've done it in a couple of places. I think for changing my mind on different things, I think I've changed my mind on quite a few things. We've worked on bike lanes and things like that. I'm a cyclist myself, and I typically was, previously I'm a, relatively fit guy that can ride a bike, and I wasn't concerned much about protected bike lanes and things like that. I rode on Sharrows and things like that, and I thought it was fine. And we've gone out and talked to the communities, so this is not geographic or obviously, but sort of an issue area where we've really done the studies and talked to the people about the need for shared bike lanes, or for secured bike lanes, for protected ones, so that people can ride. It's not about making it comfortable for the people that are already there, but encouraging others to participate in what we're constructing and what we're planning. And I think that's a good example of how we can communicate better is talking to folks, understanding what they need, and understanding what we're trying to do is encourage more usage and more participation rather than build for just what is right now. And I think that's an area where I've gone. That's just one example of sort of where I've gone with that.
Mr. Schlichtling. Can you say it for me? Schlichtling. All right. Schlichtling. All right, got it. I still don't think I have it, but I'm going to keep trying. So to pick off on a point that you just made about the type of supply, right? There's a big debate, and I've been in it my entire time on this council, about will supply alone solve our housing challenges? You mentioned the type of supply, which is really important, right? And we had a briefing yesterday in the Planning, Housing, Parks Committee where we talked about the changing demographics at the planning department's report. And one of the things it showed is that the average gross rent since 2010 has gone up 40%. But also it showed that most of what's being built is rental housing. So particularly, let's take the East County, where a lot of that housing, the vast majority of new housing is rental housing in East County. But the rents are still going up, right? Whereas homes have continued to rise, but that's been a 14% increase since 2010. So a slower pace of increase. So the rate has gone up much higher for renters than homeowners, even though it's gone up for homeowners too. And then obviously values have increased, and that brings property tax rates up. So but people want to build, a lot of people want to build multifamily. I had a meeting recently about some plans for a big development here in the county, and there was no discussion of home ownership. There was only discussion of rental. And even in the case of townhomes, which also you mentioned can be very expensive, those were even discussed as being rental. So what are the tools that you would employ or that we have or that you suggest to change that dynamic? Because the economics of it, if left where they are, there's a reason that's what wants to be built. It's because that's what's most profitable. But it's not, I don't think it's working, these numbers that I've just cited, I don't think it's working for the resident. So could you talk to me about how would you brought up the issue, but how would we change that from a policy point of view?
Well, one of the things that we did in the planning for the redevelopment of Lake Forest Mall, I mean, if it were up to the developer, it would be all rental housing. And we insisted that at least 50% of what is planned for that 100-acre site, which is one of the most important sites in Montgomery County, is home ownership. And another reason for that is that we have in Gaithersburg, we have kind of a great divide, somewhat of a great divide between one side of 270 and the other side of 270. Yeah. And so we were really, we wanted to promote home ownership on the east side of the city, and the 100-acre Lake Forest Mall parcel was an ideal location to try to do that. And we did, and the plan that was approved 2 years ago does include 50% of the housing units, total of 1,600 units, 800 units will be home ownership. And those are mostly what I refer to as the gap housing, which is not all townhouses, but the 2-over-2s, duplexes, triplexes, and so forth, and condos.
So you required that as part of the redevelopment?
As part of the plan.
Mr. Hedrick, do you want anything you want to say on that? And then I'll pass.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. The supply is not a panacea, but it is a necessary condition to affordability, and we still have growth outpacing supply in the county, and so we need the supply, because without the supply, we can't affect the affordability outside of what we have with subsidies and things like inclusionary zoning. And then in addition, exactly, supply is not a supply of one type of thing or another. We have people that are seniors that are going from large homes and want to downsize, and we don't have things out there for them. We don't have units for that. We have people that are renting in the county and want to stay and move in and buy a place, and we don't have much for that as well. So I've never also been a particular fan of the phrase missing middle, but there is a gap in the type of supply and housing production that we used to have. I used to work for FHFA, and we have a designation of single family to FHFA meant 1 to 4 units, because that's what we used to create and produce. And we don't build those quadplexes or duplexes anymore. And so there's some work that we can do on zoning, and we can go into the tables and stuff in the code if we want for where those things can be built. But we have to be allowing it in different places. We really are not getting a lot of supply with that type of gap or missing middle housing that we need to offer sort of a range of housing types that people through their life can move around and stay in Montgomery County if they want to. We have large homes being built because that you can do by right, but you can't build a duplex by right in most places in the county. But you can build a large mansion. You can knock down a small modest-sized home and build a much, much larger home to the edge of the setback, and you can do that by right when you can't do a duplex by right.
So just why are there so many vacancies of apartments in Bethesda then? And why are people offering 3-4 month free rents? Why is a developer who built in Bethesda told me we overbuilt Bethesda? How does that factor in to the supply question that you're saying? Because it seems to me that if you don't figure that out, if you're not incentivizing the right type of housing, it's one thing to say to allow it, but if the financial aspect of it isn't what they're going after, that's what we're dealing with right now, literally right now.
Yeah, no, we've got in Bethesda, we've got in a couple other places in which the allowable type of housing that was built was the only thing that could be, built in there was high density residential in a particularly small area of Bethesda relative to the land cost, and they built that to a certain cost, and they're trying to recoup it. And the benefit to the county is that we have those units, and they'll eventually get filled at a price point that they can make it eventually. But that goes back to my point about supply, is being able to create not just that high density, high level residential within a very small part of Bethesda, but being able to expand like gentler types of density, missing middle or gap housing in more parts of the county where the only option is not to build in a relatively small area around Bethesda. And I think that we can expand a little bit more for that. And so that it's not a high risk, high reward situation in most cases. We can have developments that are broader than that.
I appreciate it. To be continued. I can hear the sighs
Absolutely.
of colleagues, but we will talk more. But thank you so much.
I got a little time after this.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Council Member Lorian Sales.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Schlichting and Mr. Hedrick, for your interest in this role. We know that the Planning Board faces a lot of pressure in decision-making from many different sources, whether it's the executive side of council, external advocates, residents. Can you tell me about a time you made an unpopular decision because it was the right one? And what metrics, tell me about a time you made an unpopular decision, but you believed it was the right one, and what metrics you would use to evaluate whether the planning board is succeeding?
I've had a long career, so there are many examples. But I would say most recently, we were dealing with the project is still ongoing, so I probably shouldn't actually talk about that one.
No
but
specifics. Take your time.
I can't come up with an example. I apologize.
Okay. You can answer the second half of what metrics you would use to evaluate whether the planning board is succeeding.
I think, if you look at the projects that have moved through the planning board and the master plan efforts, and how the county has succeeded, and it's never going to be perfect, but to see the county thrive and grow and be successful would be the outcome that I think we're all looking for.
Yeah, but what metrics would you use to evaluate that success? Would it be more people moving here, the amount of homes that are being built, the amount of projects or permits? What does success for planning look like to you?
Yeah, I think it's probably kind of all of the above, and also tax revenue,
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There are times I think there's nothing but unpopular decisions, to Councilmember Joanna's point. Trying to think of which third rail to touch here. I think with unpopular decisions, there's been a few. When we sent attainable housing, I think that was one. I think that was very important. We went over a lot of data and a lot of talking to folks and a lot of really detailed dives into where things were being constructed in Montgomery County, what we had said with Thrive 2050, what we had approved with Thrive 2050, and what we thought was the best approach to get the type of missing middle and gap housing that we wanted. And we presented a fairly large, wide-ranging and comprehensive bill there or set of policies that we knew was going to be controversial, but we thought was the right policy to have. And so I think that there's been ones like that with we've talked with MCPS a couple of times too about boundaries and school crowding, because we do a lot of the analysis of the data that they provide with people moving in, and we have a pipeline. And so we're trying to give them, our best estimate of predictions of students. And we've had conversations with them several times about, the areas where we have the most development are not the areas where we see the most student growth. Student growth is turnover. It's me and my family. I moved in. A very nice lady retired to North Carolina, and we immediately had 3 children. Like, we are the MCPS growth there. And so working with the MCPS to try to understand that it's a turnover problem rather than a construction or development problem primarily Depending on how you look at it, about 70% of the growth is in turnover in the homes that exist already rather than individual development. And so where we work with them on seeing crowded schools and trying to encourage the fact that some of these are boundary problems rather than growth and development problems. That's a hard one to get through both to the MCPS board and to other folks. It's not a particularly popular position. So there's been a lot that we've done that. We get pushback on bike lanes all the time, and I'm a firm convert to bike lanes. Solar power, things like that. We've got a lot of times where we have to make the tough decisions. It's kind of why we're there, is to make that and to come down if it comes to us before the board. And as I'm sure that you guys get as well, if it comes to y'all, that means it's a harder decision. If it were easy, it would have gotten picked up beforehand. So we do a lot of that. As for metrics, again, I'm an affordable housing person and I'm a housing guy. I've been doing that for decades now. My metric is mostly affordability. Is it going to be more affordable? Is it going to produce more units for more folks? I think Councilmember Glass, when he was talking about the middle income and moderate income housing, when you see the data on the growth in the county, we have the growth in the low and very low income population. We have growth in the very high income population, and then we have the negative growth throughout the moderate, income population. And again, I'm a HUD guy, so I always think in AMI, area median income and percentages thereof. But what you're really talking about is working folks and middle class families that are moving out, and wealthier families that are either growing or moving in and taking the houses that typically would have been occupied by middle income folks. And so we need more of those. And if we don't have that housing, the folks with more income push down into the units that would have overly been occupied by other folks, which is one reason we get that out migration of that income level. And so there's a lot of work to be done there as well. It's not going to be particularly popular. But as far as metrics go, it's mostly affordability and supply for me. We just had one come for the planning board on safety of whether a light or a stop sign was sufficient for something. And to be entirely honest, I wasn't convinced that the light would have been safer given the way that the intersection was constructed, but the whole metric of measuring that for me was which would have been safer. How is it easier to cross? Which of those which of those intersection parts can you get across without rushing or feeling rushed or feeling like you have to go across 300 feet of street in a 15-second light or something like that. So if it's not something that's related to affordability or housing, it's almost always a safety concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything? All right. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councilmember Sidney Katz.
Thank you very much, Madam President, and thank you both for your interest in applying. I think it should be noted that both of you live in and have been taught while you lived in municipalities, and that's how you've perfected your governmental service. I just thought that should be mentioned. And I do think to other council members as well that disagreeing agreeably is the key to this. I mean, obviously, we're all not going to agree. I always tell my colleagues they don't always agree with me, and that's when they're wrong. I mean, I just like to, but they get by it. But one of the things that we do need to mention is that rental housing is an investment. And at one time, John, you probably remember this, and at one time Gaithersburg had 66% rental housing in it. And it was very intentional that we said, you know what, we want to be affordable, we want to do all of those things, but that needs to change, and that's when the Kentlands and the Lakelands and any new development that happened. But it's also important to remember that with the aging of our area of America, senior housing mostly is rental housing. So we don't think of everything being rental housing the same way. But one of the concerns that I have, and infill is very different for affordable. We now change the term affordable to attainable, which is always one of my gripes. But if one of the things for infill is very different than if you have 100 acres like at Lake Forest. So, Ms. Tedrick, you mentioned that you need to build more units on less land. But in order for that to be affordable, how many more units would you have to build on that less land to get that price down? And how could you get that many units on it, especially for infill?
No, and of course, as I'm sure you're aware, it can depend. It can depend on land value where you are. There are certain areas in Rockville in which land value is considerably higher than there are points in Up County. There are places in Potomac that are more expensive. Bethesda is a high value per square foot area, so it's hard in that area to build anything that's small, dense, and home ownership. But one of the things that we've looked at, and again, missing middle is as much a marketing term as it is anything else, but it represents a type and style of housing that we used to build much more. If you walk around Rockville, as a matter of fact, you can see streets that are nothing but duplexes. They're just duplexes up and down, and those are not legal to build now in most of the county. And so if you have a plot of land and you have 2 units, they're not going to be half as cheap as one would be, but they'll be less expensive for the same sort of unit of construction. And they're not that much. It's not a factor of either production costs or supplies or anything like that. It's primarily a function of land value and things like that. So if you've got certain areas, if they're large plots of land, there's cottage style apartments that have smaller, you can do those fee simple in certain areas, but you have to allow for smaller plot size. And so 1,200 square feet, we've talked about 1,500, et cetera. R60 in the zone is about 6,000, about 1/8 of an acre. It's about my house. Allowing more units as a townhome, you can get 3 on a lot. That doesn't really shoot density up all that much higher, but it does allow for lower costs. So, each and every piece of it is going to be a little bit different for what it can hold in the area, sort of what the land value is. So there's a variety of different options. It's mostly about letting that creativity be around and letting different types of supply be built in different areas. So you can do very gentle and have duplexes or townhomes, which they will be pricier than if you ran a 6-plex that was a condo style building. Some of it's parking, some of it's the land value itself, but you can it's a general curve of more units. You can charge less for them, and the per cost of construction tends to be lower or roughly the same. It really doesn't start to get more expensive until you get about over 6 or 7 stories, at which point you end up with steel construction and concrete, and that's more expensive per unit, which is a lot of why you get, in places like Bethesda, you have to go up much, much higher at that point. And so there's some hard economics to construction, and there's some policy things that you can allow for more density on different plots of land. So I would love to tell you 8-to-1 or something like that, but it's going to be different for each one. But you've got plenty of general density options that give people, like you were talking about seniors and rental housing. We have lots of seniors in the county. Just a personal aside, the woman I bought her house from had a renter in the unit to help her subsidize the place. There are plenty of folks that would like to do an ADU or something like that, or an additional unit, and those kind of things offer opportunities. And as we talk about supply, with different types of supply, people to stay in their homes, people to move into ADUs or other units in their homes, rent out larger pieces. And that allows for more flexibility and more density for folks in their homes. And I think we need to expand that, as well as sort of the larger scale things like quads and stuff like that.
So James just brought up the accessory dwelling unit concept, and to me, I know it's controversial, especially in some neighborhoods, but I live in a neighborhood, Kentlands, that does allow accessory dwelling units and has for 25 years, and it's a really successful model in that it allows for service workers, for instance, that work in the nearby shopping centers, can have units above people's garages or in other locations on the same site. There are examples of multi-generational opportunities. The ADU can be for the grandparent, and that really allows for a lot of flexibility in terms of housing. And that would be one approach, one example, in addition to the many that James just brought up, but another opportunity to really increase the supply of housing with the same area of land.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you so much. Great questions. I don't see anybody else wanting to speak. On behalf of the County Council, I want to thank you so much for raising your hand and applying to the Planning Board and reapplying to the Planning Board for Mr. James Hedrick. You are going to hear as a follow-up from our clerk, so stay tuned for that. And with that, thank you for coming today. We're going to continue with our council agenda. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Okay, good night. Did I say good night? Okay. It's gonna be a long day. So next we have the consent calendar. Can I entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Council Vice President Balcom, second by Council Member Don Lukey. All those in favor, please raise your hand.
It was me that said it, not Dawn.
I heard both. Okay. Okay,
didn't
Mink.
speak.
Councilmember Mink said it.
No.
I just told you I
okay.
said it. Councilmember Lorian said second the motion. Okay. So we are gonna move on, and it has been approved. So with that, we will come back at 1:05 p.m. And now we're in recess. Thank you so much.